Today we'll take another brief look at the TQ non-binary cult, and to me, someone saying they're non-binary is nonsensical in itself because they're identifying as not being something. Now, I don't identify as a tree, as a puddle, as an aeroplane, but I don't feel compelled to tell all and sundry about it. And even the term non-binary, so they're not part of the binary. So there's the binary and non-binary. Therefore, there are only two things. So they're part of a sodding binary. But recently, I saw a TikTok, which is only 10 seconds long, that perfectly encapsulates the non-binary movement. Here we go.
This person just came into the bar and said, "Hey, what are your pronouns? You kind of look like a they, them." And I hated that they were right.
What the do these people want? They are never happy because we saw there someone who is clearly a woman, but they are approached by someone who assumes they use they, them pronouns, which is correct, and still they're pissed about it. So what's going on here? Well, this is what I think is happening. As the whole pronoun thing sadly spreads throughout society like a particularly aggressive cancer, it's becoming normalised. So being a they, them no longer means someone is as special as they think they are. And of course, this individual can't claim to have been misgendered. The person who approached them guessed their pronouns correctly. And of course, misgendering isn't really a thing. If I decide to call myself Sophie and put on a dress, it's clear I'm still a man. Anyone who refers to me that way is correct. And maybe it's somewhat disempowering for the poor non-binary they, them. Because I would bet good money that as soon as they saw a person approaching, inside their heads they're running the narrative, "I'm not a she, her, I'm a they, that." Oh shit, he got it right. Oh, now I don't have the chance to berate this individual, to explain all about my identity, because to people who use they, them pronouns, their entire personality is said pronouns. And finally, and most importantly, I think the reason that individual is so pissed off is that they didn't have the chance to have a tantrum, to throw a strop like a toddler, because that's what they do. "Oh, I'm such a victim, I use these pronouns, you're oppressing me." And if they can't do that, they've got nothing left. But there is evidence that people with they, them or neo pronouns are actually discriminated against. And it's not a bad thing. The way that that individual talks about the bar, I'm guessing it's their workplace. And earlier this year, a British newspaper published a study which had been carried out by a research company, where they had contacted companies with job vacancies advertised, sending out fake CVs, curriculum vitae. In America you call them resumes. And what they found was, even though all the CVs had gender neutral names, if under the name it was written they, them or any neo pronouns, it was far less likely that the employer would contact that supposed individual. And that makes sense because if I was working for a company responsible for hiring new staff, would I give time to some self-obsessed non-binary type where everything will be about them? You know, they'll turn up every day with their pronoun badges on and insist everyone uses them. Not only that, when the study was over and the employers were contacted, they gave several reasons for why they didn't want to interview non-binary types. Firstly, employers said, rightly or wrongly, they expected non-binary people to be less well educated. And I guess there's a point to that. If you're hiring someone and they claim not to know what sex they are, do they sound overly bright? They also said they expected non-binary people to be much more lazy, and that makes sense because the only thing they ever do is make fucking TikToks. And thirdly, they said non-binary people would cause a bad atmosphere in the workplace. Yes, and that's understandable as well, because if you have an employee who, on the rare occasions they aren't making TikToks, is either shouting at everyone else for misgendering them or sitting in the corner crying about being oppressed, who really wants to work with them? And there's a story in the news that highlights just how weird the TQ cult are. It centred around a member of the Scottish Parliament, a transgender person called Heather Herbert. She used to be a member of the Labour Party and stood for Scotland becoming independent. And I have to say, if there were more SNPs with this mindset, I'd let Scotland have its independence. In fact, I'd go up to the border with a saw, chop it off and push it out to sea. That being said, most jocks are cracking people. But anyway, Heather, here it is, had been down to London from Scotland to have bottom surgery. Only 15% of trans women do get that surgery. Effectively having a vaginoplasty. And the way it works if you're a man and you want to appear to be a woman, because you will never be an actual woman, is a surgeon chops your bollocks off, then turns your penis inside out and pushes it up a hole that the surgeon has created. This is now the new fake vagina, often called the poop wound, because the top of what was the penis is now attached to part of the colon. This is sounding sexy. And it has to be dilated, or rather have a pole shoved up it every day for at least 3 months, because the body thinks it's got an open wound. So Heather needed to dilate on her second day of being a woman whilst at Gatwick Airport. I don't think we need to question the sanity or lack thereof of a man who's opted to have his meat and veg chopped off. But Heather found herself needing to dilate at a busy international airport. So she went into a disabled toilet, whereupon she removed her underwear and laid on the floor of a public toilet, rammed the pole up herself, and then posted this photo on social media. Does that sound normal? As usual, it's hard to tell that that angelic feminine flower was until very recently a man. How mad does that sound though? Not only laying on the floor of a public toilet at an airport, but it's a disabled toilet, so Heather is denying a disabled person the rights to use the facilities should they need to, and to then photograph herself and post it on Twitter. Another trans woman taking photos inside a toilet. But hey, it's not a fetish. So what have we learned today? Well, we've learned that employers, quite rightly, are very nervous to employ non-binary types. We've also learned that with non-binary types, even if you get their pronouns correct for them, they're still pissed off about it. And also that if you're a trans woman, apparently it's normal to lay on a filthy toilet in a public bog whilst ramming stuff up your artificial vag. As ever, thanks for watching.